Hello, everyone. Welcome to another VOD review stream. We're going to be looking at Spica today, looking at TSM's first 4 games of the LCS regular season, specifically because I've seen a lot of people talking about how Spica is slumping to start the year, how he doesn't look like, he doesn't look like himself. He's not playing up to the level of expectations that people have for him. And Spica is a very popular player. I ran a little kind of survey in the background of a prediction competition I did, and asked people a bunch of questions, including kind of who their favorite player was, and Spica was the top answer in that, very close along with like Bjergsen and Fudge. So might be the most popular player in the LCS right now. And TSM, of course, being such a popular org, with so much history. So I want to look at Spica. I've watched TSM's games, but when I watch the games generally, I don't hyper-focus on a single player most of the time. I may notice some things they're doing, other things that they're, not doing. But when you VOD review a player specifically and watch them, of course, it's even better if you have their point of view, but pro view is gone. So we're going to watch just the standard view of the VODs, and just hone in on Spica, what he should be doing, whether he's making the right choices, how his matchups are playing out. Just a little bit of bookkeeping on this. I try to do these player specific VOD reviews every other week so far this year. I did one last time about General Sniper from 100 Thieves, the amateur 100 Thieves Next. Really hype 15-year-old prospect, so you can go back and check that one out. I've done previous VOD reviews on players like Kaidwo, Shenyi, from their time in China. Berserker, I did one on as well. I guess, actually, Berserker was the one I did 2 weeks ago, and before that I did Sniper. So anyways, we're going to look at Spica. We're going to jump in. And let's see kind of what we find. I don't come into this with preconceived notions of, hey, I think Spica's actually been doing great and everybody's got it wrong or whatever. I try not to come in with that, or, we're thinking, and I'm going to prove how badly Spica's underperforming. Like, I'm going to discover this as I go, along with you guys. I've got initial thoughts from just watching the games in general, but not like specific overall takeaways. So. And we'll jump in. Thank you to GB Shib for the Prime sub. Appreciate it very much. And we'll get in with these 4 LCS Spring 22 games. So I'll take a quick. I'm gonna let you guys watch an ad with me. That's always fun. And we'll jump in to kind of the end of the draft here and see just how this affects Spica, and then we can talk a little bit about win conditions, things like that. Get the last pick on there. Okay. I think they confirm with Rel, but if not. So they're up against EG. This is the first game these 5 have played together because they didn't play in lock-in, right? So we started with a Zeri because it's OP. The Senna Victor as an answer. So, they want to scale, they want to team fight, they want to have range, pretty good, like disengage CC and so on. Jarvan and Gwen on the other side, pretty aggressive. And then the Poppy comes in. Udra, thank you for the sub. So there's the Poppy for Spica as an answer to Jarvan. Hey, your W counters the EQ. Great. It fits in with, having a tank, having some really great disengage, having some playmaking. It can gank, all these things. There weren't any jungle bans. And then we get Jace for a winning lane, presumably. Into the Gwen. Yeah, at this point, the Gwen can't really be flexed. You have Ryze, Leona, and then you're going to go for filling it out with... Yeah, I guess like you could definitely have some more engage here. You only have Poppy as the tank. You're going into Zeri, Leona. I mean, I don't know Zeri matchups really, but... So I'm not going to necessarily have real thoughts on the support counter to Zeri or anything like that. But Rel, I think Shenyi is comfortable on Rel. We've seen Shenyi play Rel other times as well, so there's a little bit of that to it, getting the engage, getting a little bit more tankiness. So Spica's role in this comp, I think, is going to be a little challenging in the early game. You do have the Ryze Victor matchup mid, right? Which I think the Ryze should get. Victor might be able to push a little bit early. In the mid 2v2 with Jarvan Rise up against Poppy Victor, I would think that if Jarvan gets to make the first play, and the Poppy's not to like straight up counter him with the W, I would favor the Jarvan Rise in that skirmish. When he's complaining about something. All right. Okay. So Spica, like, he's got his Jarvan lane that should be winning. Zeri, I think... What kind of range does Zeri have in lane? I don't think Zeri has the longest range, right? Like, I think you could play through Senna and Rel a little bit, but I'm not entirely sure. So Spica's pathing top to bot, which implies that he thinks they are going to have a winning bot lane. And probably get some push from Victor. I might be wrong on these matchups. But he's skipping Krugs. And I assume that's because he wants to... He's not just kind of power clearing. Yeah, see, this is the thing that's hard for me to read on with Zeri still, is like getting a feel on how exactly her kit plays out. Like, I know, hey, the laser through the wall thing, I know that her Q and her auto are kind of swapped, but I don't have a good feel for the ranges on both. So those are some of the things that, you know, I just need more time watching her, or possibly, you know, unlocking her and playing her a couple times just to get a feel for it. So he's doing red Raptors Gromp blue with wards on bot side because they're actually worried about an invade. This is more like he's pathing to defend a dive setup. They're crashing the cannon wave, but Jarvan is not there. But right now they're probably calming, like they could have been setting up a dive here, but you could see the ward that Spica's around right now. That ward would have been to spot them trying to set up this dive. And of course, they don't come there. They fight off the cannon wave a little bit. And, you know, Danny and Vulcan don't overinvest in trying to crash that. They know, hey, there's no dive coming here. But Spica's pathing there seems to be pretty defensive. Hey, Bowen, thank you for the Twitch sub. But yeah, like so his pathing there was, you know, I think that's good pathing. I generally, my first instinct is always path towards your prio and go for the control play. Because you can see with Jarvan being pushed up like that, and maybe we can back up a little bit and see if they had info on Jarvan earlier on. You know, you've always got the potential. It's this war of, are you going to gank the exposed lane, or are you going to try to cover your aggressive lane and potentially dive? Clearly, Spica's read was they're going to try to dive bottom. And they could have, right? And Danny and Vulcan played it out up to a certain point as if they were prepping a dive. But the way Inspired pathed, and they don't have vision on him here. If I go back a little bit more, no, they don't have. They have the little forward ward near Raptors, and maybe, see, by now that path is already committed to, right? So even if they do spot him here, it doesn't influence the decision making anymore because that's already been locked in. That pathing was committed to. My mindset is generally cover your pusher and defend from a gank or something like that. But pathing defensively, when you do have a comp that is like a disengage-oriented one like this, that I think will scale really well with Senna and Victor, a defensive path, totally viable, and I think is actually kind of a good call here. And at this point, they're taking a bit of a risk that Huni may be vulnerable to getting ganked, but will have to try to outplay it. And if he can flash the Jarvan combo, then he's going to be fine. He'll just lose his flash, right? Should Spica have sprinted to the other scuttle when he spotted Jarvan in the bot try? The thing is, Crab right now, like with them taking the XP out of it, is valuable, but it's nowhere near as valuable as it used to be. So doing a safe 6 camp clear that doesn't expose your laners is totally fine. Inspired is getting Yeah, so I guess Spica got the bottom crab. Double crabbing isn't really a big deal if you're the poppy. You don't need it. And if we watch the mid lane, like he does have prio from Huni to try for it if he really wants to. So right around here, do they? Yeah, they see him here, right? So right there, they see him. Spica could skip wolves and run to top crab, but he knows Huni's not vulnerable, so he doesn't need the crab shrine, and he'd be messing up his future paths by leaving wolves up and not cycling that camp. So I think it would be less efficient for himself, and his laners don't need the crab shrine. So no, I don't think running to top crab would have been the right play there. But you can see Huni's being a little careful. He's backing off near the alcove there just in case he kind of got run on himself. Spica's going to see whether he and Huni can contest that crab with Huni's prio, but with Jojo having Kaiduo pushed in like that, it would be really risky. So I don't even know. Getting that information, getting that vision on the top crab area is kind of useful. And Spica spent a few seconds for it, but yeah, I think it would have been fine also to just go straight to Krugs. Now the question is, with Raptors coming up again, does he continue to play for efficiency and say, hey, we've got enough wards topside, we've got enough information. So there's this 2v2 where Shenyi gets Danny for first blood. I'm not going to dive into that because it's a factor for Spica, but the way they played it out doesn't matter for Spica. Yeah, so he's going to stay efficient. He spent a little bit of time here and there kind of covering bot and then checking the vision top. So his Raptors have come up again. He clears that camp. Now he's going to reset, go bot to top with Gromp respawned. Wolves will probably be back up in time. So he reset. He's deploying mid along with Shenyi and Tactical. They show on this ward. It's interesting that they work so hard to control the vision down here, but I think they know they're trying to play through. They're trying to play through the bot side more and letting Huni just be like, hey, don't die. So now he's heading back. He spent, in terms of his own clear efficiency here, going here and fighting for this vision is costing him time that he could have been on the Grump, but his read on the wolves and their timing for respawning, if you clear Grump and then you have to stand around and wait for the wolves, then this time is available to spend anyways. And it looks like he had a better feel on that timer than I did, which is not surprising. But I thought that, okay, wolves are up now. Yeah, you know what? He might have had to wait 2 seconds for the wolves. So he did hurt his own efficiency just a little, but he was fighting for that vision around Dragon Area to make sure that they knew what was going on there. And Inspired isn't showing on that vision. But Tactical and Shenyi should be letting this wave pull in. They're going to know well in advance if there's a dive setup coming, or they should be confident that they do. Yeah, their vision is really good. So they know they're not getting a dive setup on them here. And Spica would probably be able to come in time if they felt there was one coming. So just let this wave come in, farm it out, and Spica gets to clear his bot's top. Cyclist camps that way. Now his read here is, now maybe there's a top dive coming in. So he's being very defensive, which is what fits kind of the comps here. Now the bot dive is coming in, but not from a jungler. So let's back this up a little bit. You can see the mid prio is a pretty big deal, right? Spica maybe would have been able to fight for that top crab earlier if it wasn't for the mid prio situation, but it wasn't really important, but maybe they would have been able to. And now they knew there was no bot dive going to come in from the jungler, but Kaiduo takes a reset here under these circumstances. So Mid wave has just been reset. Jojo cancels his reset and pushes another wave. Now he's going to walk right into vision here. He's clearing a control ward. Kaido has to catch this mid wave. Spica has to, maintain his clear. And he's going to worry about an invade. So right here, they know that Jojo's clearing this ward, but after he clears it, he could walk up this way, and they could invade together on the red buff, and I think that's what Spica's thinking about. Huni's pushed in, Kaido has to catch this. This invade is vulnerable. But instead, Jojo is running at bottom. Now they see it. Vulcan badly misjudges the flash E there. But this is fine. They defend it. Yeah, and even with Jojo there, like if Tactical or Shenyi had been caught, there might have been a play. But Spica, had to maintain his efficiency clearing bot to top there. He was more worried with top play. He thought a bot is fine. I need to get these camps, and it's all fine. Spica is just playing by the books right now, defensively. I think he's making all the right calls. I'm really dwelling on these minutes, but now he's going to cover Huni bouncing this wave out and crashing it. But Inspired, with Jojo going bot there wasn't a play top. Inspired is just going to continue his clear top to bot. Now Spica goes to the Krugs. And see, he could have, if we back it up here, Spica could have gone red buff to Krugs here, or red buff Raptors Krugs. But he saw, or Huni told him, either way, the two of them worked out together. I've got a kind of a push building here. I have to crash and bounce it. So Spica skips his Krugs, protects the crash here, which Inspired very well could have ganked into. And now he backs off to Krugs. Again, by the books. Textbook, playing towards the proper states of his lanes. And now he looks for a gank opportunity. He's got some time here. He could be resetting and going bot to clear again. But Huni says, hey, I might be vulnerable. Maybe Inspired snuck into somewhere here. They don't know. I think during this area, there's a red control ward bot side, but yeah, they haven't seen Inspired, so it's just like, just in case either Spica gets a chance to gank if Impact exposes himself, or he's going to, get a 2v2 fight. And now Herald is up, Huni is pushing out, Shenyi is rotated mid, they're going to go on this Herald. And they just get it with that coordinated timing there. EG take the bot side control. TSM have kind of given that up. Given up those plates. And this is just trading. EG are getting into a gold lead here, but with TSM having the Herald, that, the implied gold or the expected gold from that is going to even it out. Plus, there are waves to catch and all of that. So TSM are fine here, being down 1,000 gold. I'm not sure that Kaido should be down in tempo and lane so much. But it hasn't been that big a deal. The more time goes on without this gold lead exploding, and, a rule of thumb in case you haven't ever heard it before is, like a 10% lead. So if you've got 18,000, if they've got plus 1,800 on you, that's where you start to think they're actually in the lead. Being less than 1K down right now is whatever. It's nothing. And our comp is going to play for scaling and disengage, right? That's the primary. with Victor and Jace range and Senna as well, and objective setups, all that kind of stuff. And, I think TSM, maybe there are openings for them to set up some kind of aggressive play to get like a gain, create a kill, but they really don't. The onus is not on them to do that. Whoops. Let's back this up just a little bit. So, especially given that they've had so little time together, I don't think they should feel any pressure to generate something or create something, because there's always risk inherent in making a proactive play. I'm not concerned about that. So they just put the Herald mid, just get some plates. Maybe. I mean, you maybe could have done a little better with that, but it doesn't. It's fine. It's just the gold. Just to keep them in things. That'll help them with finishing off the mid turret later. Because turret health is a resource as well, not only the gold that you get afterwards. Not sure how well Tactical's been doing on stacking his souls, but yeah, you see he's topside as Huni is crashing. And Tactical and Shenyi are playing safe since they're the weak side right now, and Spica's now diving top. Hey, look, a play. Now that's a little... See, this is a little forced. Because Kaido is like standing behind his turret because he's afraid of getting dove himself by like the Leona or someone. But around here, I think they see, as soon as he clears this wave, he knows I've got, 20 seconds until the next wave hits, or almost 30 seconds till the next wave hits. Okay, he TPs from his recall. And he figures Tactical can catch the mid wave anyways. So there's not really much cost to this at all. As long as they don't die, which they don't. As long as they don't die. As long as they don't die. It's a good play from EG, mostly. Tactical really doesn't want to give up this cannon wave, which is understandable. He doesn't think they can quite pull this off. Maybe if Tactical and I don't want to get in the weeds on this, but like... Shenyi is in base there. If Shenyi's a couple seconds sooner and gets to ult them under turret, maybe they trade a kill back. In fact, probably they trade a kill back. So it's just like a few seconds efficiency thing. That's one that like you're going to talk about it in review, but like, yeah, I mean, we made a play, they made a counter play. They did a good job. And Spica had nothing to do with it. There's a dragon from that as well, but the first two dragons, I think TSM should not feel like they're supposed to be in control of the game this early on. And they're mostly playing strong side top. Like Jace is the one who's getting pushes and bounces, whereas their bot lane has been receiving pushes the whole time, so naturally you're going to give up some dragons. So far I still think there's no cause for real concern from TSM in this game. Or from Spica. I don't think he's done anything really wrong. And they threatened Danny there. Oh, that's the play where Danny like accidentally hopped a wall and had to flash, right? Yeah, right here. Oops, wait a second. Remember that one. And so, kind of because of that, and also just TSM having more tempo there. They get to start the Herald here. Uh-oh. So Inspired turns on Huni. He flashes and then gets ulted on, which is a little rough. And this is where things start to go wrong. Shenyi picks up the eye, but they're going to get wiped here. And this is probably kind of the game here. That's a real bad fight to to lose out on. Like, to lose it that hard. So they're all here. Now, generally speaking, stacking as 5 on an objective here, like, you'd want to have some more forward vision kind of protecting you. But the main thing is that I think this is kind of it's a decent formation for this comp when you've got Victor, Senna, Poppy, you've got Jace Poke and all these things, but it's too early. It's too early in the game for them to be saying, hey, if they come at us, we're going to wreck them and they're going to lose. They don't have the damage output yet. Now, Huni here, Vulcan is going for an engage. Huni walks a different direction than the rest of his team. I guess maybe thinking I don't want to clump up as 5 and Vulcan and Expired and could just like 5-man dunk us. Huni has not been pathing to try to like manufacture a flank or something like that. I think he's just like, he thinks Vulcan might be trying to eat him, and then he sees, oh, but Inspire's walking on me, and he just kind of like, they get a little bit separated. They're not quite, they haven't laid down poke in advance. They don't have the forward vision, and they're also just not at the right power spikes for this. Shenyu W's backwards, so he's not counter-engaging. I think they have a mixed call here, too. They don't know whether they want to fight or leave. Shenyu wants to leave. Huni's like, well, I gotta leave, obviously. I got in the wrong position. Now Spica's like, wait, should I go try to help Huni? Everybody's pulled apart. Right here, their comms are probably in total chaos. So he knocks one person out of the fight, but like, once Huni was caught there, the fight's kind of done. So they gave out 4 deaths. And, you know, I think that decision or that flow of decisions that put them into a 5-man setup on Herald where they could get engaged on by a team that was, you know, in a little bit of a lead and has better power spikes at that point. Like, let's see if we can, yeah, there we go, spot the items in advance and so on. So it's almost 1,000 gold lead. There's a Mountain Drake and a Hex Drake. You've got mythics on everyone on both sides. On this side, you've also got boots and some other components, boots and components. You don't have completed boots on your AD. You have fewer components on your others. Your levels, what, 12, 10, 11, 9. Yeah, your levels are okay. But I think TSM's team needs more time. I think they want to be at 2-3 items before they get comfortable. They need more souls on the Senna and so on. They needed Jace's poke to actually matter more. So I just think this was not the right time to let themselves get into that position. I think the third dragon, which they had like 3 more minutes on. Oh, what's going on here? Like, you'd be a little more concerned about that one, but even then, it's really what really matters. Odranus, thank you for the Prime sub. So yeah, I just think like that's a macro thing. And again, since this is a Spica VOD review, look at this. He's gonna stun just a terrible, kind of inexplicable Jojo Pyun TP. Remember this one as well. That one right there is just a, my bad, guys. And as I stream this, apparently, Jojo is once again picking Zillion into Bjergsen in Challenger Q, Champion Q, whatever it's called. So that's fun. The guy is just so cocky. And that TP got punished. What a great play by Spica to catch that one up. No, that was just receiving an int. But yeah, like, so far, Spica individually, unless you want to pin macro issues and shot calling mistakes on him, which I think to some extent there might be some fairness to that, but I don't think there's really anything in this game that I would say, oh, Spica, that wasn't good. You did something wrong there. I think he's pathed appropriately. I think he's generally been in the right place at the right time. He's given up efficiency when he needed to. But they're in a comp that is supposed to be on the back foot, and they haven't been perfect in that. And the enemy team has kind of taken advantage of their openings. Now, I wonder if we really dissected this, and I don't want to go into it too much, but the top dive they went for when they got the kill and then they gave up the mid dive after, I wonder how much we could draw a line from that to the way the rest of the macro played out over the next few minutes. So Huni gets caught here. Things are just starting to fall apart now, but... Oh, Kaiju solo kills Impact. So we'll watch a little more just to see if there are any other key moments, but I think like the story of this game has pretty much already been told. You can scale back into this one, but you're going to need some enemy mistakes and some like really key outplays, I think. Like this kind of enemy mistake. A few more of those would let them. Yeah, so My Name Is Not Your Business says if they got a proper setup on that Herald, on the second Herald, with their jungle and support, it's winnable. Yeah, it is winnable. Like, they didn't have the amount of vision they needed. They weren't quite on the same page about where to stand. Huni got kind of like sidestepped a different direction than the others. But it was risky to go for trying to defend that objective. I'm not sure it was necessary. They may have felt it was necessary. Like maybe they're worried about the Gwen scaling. They're worried about the Rise. How are we going to kill the Rise later? Some of this kind of stuff, and they felt there was some more time pressure on them. But to that extent, like given that TSM are in a comp that is to play like disengage and scale, they are against a comp that actually scales fairly well. Gwen and Rise scaling really well. Okay, finding a pick on an exposed player here. There's Spica making a play with Kaijuo. There was kind of a hole in EG's map setup where they had too much pushed at once and they had to leave someone exposed and couldn't cross map it. So good catch there. But like the TSM comp, its win conditions don't counteract completely the enemy team win conditions, which does make it difficult. So I think you can point to some difficulties with the draft here. Because they're playing out their draft more or less the way you'd want them to. And if they played it more perfectly, including that Herald fight, they'd be in a much better position. But they still wouldn't be like favored at 30 or 35 minutes necessarily. Might be more like even, right? They don't have a clear specific advantage in their draft, I would say. They have some things they're a little bit better at, but not like, as long as we do this, we'll win. It's, if we do this and they don't do that, then we're going to win. And I mean, the gold is still close, right? With those picks they got, with Jojo Pion getting caught a couple times, that has allowed them to prevent the gold from snowballing. So it's still only like 2,000 here. Here's an engage. Spica peels inspired. And this fight looks pretty winnable. Ooh, the Senate ult, but they didn't quite have enough to execute the targets, even if that lands, I think. Let's watch that fight again. So the context here is Dragon is about 30 seconds out. It's a potential soul for EG. The way they want a team fight generally, like with the Rel, they can engage, but it is a little tough for a Victor and a Senna to follow up, and like Jace has to flash in, the Victor has to go forward. Sentinel's on top of it. It's a little bit tough. You don't have like a damage dealing diver. So you would prefer if they came at you and you like destroy the Jarvan Leona kind of thing, I would think. The Gwen too. Impacts on the flank. Their engage hits Vulcan and it's not inspired. Vulcan and Jojo. And Danny's really the target you got to blow up. Maybe impact. So Danny here. Little bit of poke on Vulcan. You see he's going for Danny, but Danny has a really good flash there actually. And at that point, impact creates a zone. Immunes it. So I think that was a pretty valiant try from TSM. And, oh, okay, they got enough damage out. They got Impact, Inspired, and JoJo all low, so that I think that does give them Dragon Control here. JoJo TPs for a flank here. Now, if he was more aggressive, he could have gone on the control road right at the dragon, maybe. Oh, that's Impact. JoJo TP'd mid. Now he Realm Warps them in on top. So TSM are 4v5. They don't have any ults. Huni is looking to mark Impact. But Spica gets caught there. He's picking up a honey fruit. And he gets caught for it. That's a bit of a mistake from Spica. Yeah, that's rough. He's low from the team fight, right? I was watching Minimap, so yeah. So I guess he's trying to see if he can go for something there, but he gets junked a little bit. Then he gets baited by the honey fruit. Danny doesn't expose himself. Yeah, so I would say that's maybe the first little run of play from Spica where I'm like, that wasn't great. But at the same time, they were in the mindset of, if we play this completely safely, we're going to give up soul for nothing. So you can see like the pressure that was on the decision there and the way they were doing it. They might have even thought, like, they saw Impact TP there. Maybe they even thought, maybe we can turn on him, but others, like Kaido, was way backed out already. Tactical was backing out that way. So I don't know what their comms were like there either, but it was probably pretty messy. And now you're playing Jace Victor Centipoke against an Ocean Soul. And Spica getting caught there is not really what like lost them the soul, and definitely not what lost them the game. But of course he does have a 0-2 and 3 scoreline, and he's down in CS to the enemy jungler, so clearly he's played horribly. Let's just see EG finish this. I'm just gonna jump through. They're trying to like counter push some stuff. They're trying to stem some bleeding. They're gonna try to pick off JoJo, but see in this setup, they can maybe get JoJo. Yeah, they can get JoJo, but EG actually were in a good split push setup there where they can cross map and get an inhib for losing JoJo. So that time, that death from JoJo was fine. It's also fine from TSM to make that trade, because maybe they lose the inhib for nothing if they don't do it. Now, the last ditch effort from TSM, see if we can fight for Elder, see if they can make some big mistakes and we can... And I believe I remember the outcome of this fight. Let's
EG, they're trying to poke down and heal back up with their Ocean Soul. Impact, though, gets engaged on his gun.
Gets jumped, the stun is on. They're going to find him. He's going to zone his for a second. Shady's going to drop 1 for 0. Stop for Poppy for a second, and the front line goes Inspired, and that means they're going to get the kill. Down goes Kaido, and that means the fight is over. A quadra kill for Danny. Welcome to the LCS, Zeri. Danny gets another pentakill.
Yep. Yep, that's the one. So anyways, game 2. Let's let's go to the next one. I'll tee this next one up. Review of that game. TSM comms seem kind of messy. I generally don't have an issue with their concept of how to play out their draft. I think their draft was fine in isolation, but not necessarily like with clear win conditions versus the enemy draft. I think Spica played defensively and made, a couple of late game mistakes. So let's go to the next one. Dignitas. Now, of course, my camera is covering part of the draft, but deal with it. Another Poppy game for Spica. No jungle bans. So he gets Poppy's second rotation. He sees Thresh Gwen on the other side. Poppy into Gwen. Didn't talk about it last game, but it does make sense. Gwen does dash around a lot. They've got a Zeri and a Yuumi. They're trying to run back the Zeri themselves this time. Enemy team ends up with the Felios, and then Dig is last picking their jungler. Sorry, excuse me for a second. Well, nose tickle. I assume River pulls out the Jarvan because he plays Jarvan, even though it's kind of a self-counter against the Poppy, but yeah. River's just playing Jarvan all the time right now. So win conditions here. Graves, Poppy, Ryze, Zeri, Yuumi. The Yuumi, the Ryze scale nicely. You're up against a comp that has Victor Aphelios to receive your engages. So if you're going to try to get like Graves burst into them, do they outrange? I think Dig outrange. It's close. Side laning against the Gwen, I assume you're going to match the Ryze against it later. Not certain. Felios Thresh probably has some pretty good kill pressure on Zeri Yuumi. So Spica might be worrying about that. Now the Graves Gwen matchup, I think Graves can get pushed in that. So once again, I think Spica could path towards top side to protect Huni, who most likely has a pushing lane when he wants it. But he can also path top to bot like he's doing to defensively cover what might likely be a vulnerable bottom lane. And he's choosing to path to cover his bottom lane. And trusting in Huni to survive whatever, punishment pressure comes his way. Possibly, Huni will allow Gwen to control the lane and play it like actually kind of weak side defensive. But I want to watch that play out because it's a chance for me to learn something about Graves Gwen for as many times as we might end up seeing it again. Yeah, so Gwen gets the push on the first couple waves. That's good to know. But I think Graves will get pushed. Like, he'll get the first real bounce. So he clears all three topside camps because, of course, he's on blue side this time. He doesn't have to worry about Krugs. Raptors, red. He's not... I don't think he's going to be able to gank anything here. I don't think Zeri, Yuumi, Poppy can get a kill on an early gank, most likely, unless they, have the entire lane to run them down. But he might be worried about defending a dive. So he's on the Krugs around the time that wave, the cannon wave, would be crashing. So he's spending those demo Krugs. They would be able to pull him over if they saw the dive coming, but Dig are not diving. So he's got this entire recall timer and had the whole wave before to make sure everything's fine. And it's totally okay to go for a 6 camp clear here. Don't worry too much about the crabs. You can see the difference in this Ryze Victor matchup, where the Ryze is playing safely. And of course the jungler plays a role in that. You know, having Poppy instead of having Jarvan when you're the Rise. Like last game, Kaiduo was the victor, and he was catching waves the whole time, but he had a Poppy on his side and enemy had a Jarvan. This time, the jungle matchup is flipped, right? Kaiduo is the Rise, but he has a Poppy. He doesn't have a Jarvan. So he is getting... They are trading pushes back and forth here to get this reset, but I'm curious to see whether that continues or whether Blue ends up having more control of the wave than Kaiduo did last game. Which is partly, you know, whether he wants to. Whether he wants to kind of take the risk of pushing out. Spica gets the top crab off of his reset, which seems like... Where do we go for pickaxe first? Huh. Like River could have gone bot crab to top crab here, I think. But he invaded off of this. What's he looking for? Is he trying to find out whether or not there was a full clear? I'm not really sure what that was for. Is he trying to find out whether there's a gank coming? He spent a fair amount of time there for not really anything. And I think they would have had a pretty decent read that the wave wasn't really... I don't know. I don't think you path all the way around the red buff pit to look for a dive. But I'm not really sure. But anyways, I think Spica might have had enough time there to go for the top crab regardless. And maybe River wouldn't have been able to match it anyways. But Spica ends up getting a delayed take on his crab, but does match the total camps. And now is clearing top to bot again. Now Huni's push here. They get seen on this roam, but they commit to it anyways. But Fake God's able to be totally safe. And Blue gets some wave control. Now they're going to clear this wave and get another timer. Now they're switching into strong bot side for a bit. With the dragon up. Now they get a timer out of mid. They're generating a timer out of bot. And they're playing for invade. Because if they go straight on dragon here, they don't have Zeri yet. So they don't have Zeri yet. They should have a, you know, for some reason Blue isn't using TP here. But, which is pretty strange, honestly. He's already started walking at this point, so he figures he might as well just walk the rest of the way. But you see, TSM has a... They do have a tempo window here. They shouldn't have as big of one if Blue had TP'd there. But Blue chose to walk instead of using his TP for tempo. But the problem is that TSM don't have Zeri yet. They do want to go for vision. They've got a ward here. And they figure, you know, Realm Warp can come in if we invade. What they don't give credit to is that there could be 3 with the potential of a Victor joining. They don't think Victor can join. So I think they think it's kind of like a 3.5 with Zeri being closer. But they just get... Wow. We walk in. You're a Poppy with a Yuumi on you. You're not level 6, but nobody on their side is level 6. And he's just not as tanky as he thinks he is. Did he have a whole bunch of gold on him? Yeah. So he's got boots and a ruby crystal. He upgrades his boots and anything else? Upgraded boots and a control ward. Which, I mean, that's not a ton of gold. And it doesn't make any tankier, really, but... I think they just didn't expect, you know, Jarvan Thresh Aphelios to have that kind of damage, or to... I'm sure he thought, oh, I'll just poke in, I'll throw my shield at the vision cone, and I'll just see if they're there, right? And if they're not there, we get to walk in, lay wards, and then the Zeri gets enough push to join, and we can go on dragon. And then if they come at us and we've got, Poppy and so on, and Rise being there before Victor, then we're going to be okay. But they just slightly rushed the play and overrated Poppy's tankiness at this stage, or underrated the damage potential. So it's a mistake. That's an earlier mistake this time around than last game. If they were a little more patient and allowed the Rise to link up before they stepped up, then they might be able to like turn that fight. Maybe you need a little bit quicker reaction on a Poppy W when you see the Jarvan coming. You can really nitpick some of that. So they're committing. 8-minute, 5-man commit for Herald. Bot lane leaning up to mid. They had some prio, but they are going to be giving up plate spot to an Aphelios, who can take him pretty fast if he's got the right guns. So they get the Herald. Now they're going to reset out. It's a very standard Herald play, as long as they don't get anyone caught. They're going to lose. I don't think they're going to lose 2 plates, so it's actually. They're worried about getting Dove here because they probably know Jarvan's around. But here comes Spica, and since the enemy team wasn't fast on it, yeah, they lose some bot camps. They lose 1.5 plate spot. That's fine. And a dragon now. This dragon take should give TSM a timer after to do something. So right about now, TSM should know, okay, we're about to have a timer. And Kaido's using it right away. He's roaming top. He's seen right there, yep. Tricky little word, so his roam comes to nothing. If Huni was faster getting that wave in, maybe they can force the tower and get some plates regardless. But with Spica being bot side, and maybe I wonder, like, could he have been... No, he had bot camps he had to take after this. So he had deployed bot both because there were bot camps and because there was a threat of a dive and he wanted to be there to defend it and like counter gank it. So he can't join this play to top. An alternative for Kaido, and if there's a really nice ward, I assume Blue placed it in lane there to see which direction Kaido leaves in. So they knew he was coming. You know, they knew for sure he was coming based on that Baron Pit ward, but they were pretty sure he was coming as soon as he stepped up that way. Possibly there was a play where he could have leaned bottom instead, and then he and Spica look for something with Tactical Shenyi pushing out bot, and like maybe there's a straggler from Dig they could try to catch, but I don't think they probably feel that they're stronger right now in that group, or that there was a likelihood of finding a real straggler. So that's just a situation where TSM had a timer, but there wasn't a whole lot they were going to be able to do with it, just given the entire circumstances of the map. Now they still do need to somewhat cover Huni's crash here, so they lean that way, and they do. And that's a pretty decent little cover. Kaido and Spica leaning up into river there during that crash. Like they're definitely talking about their basics here, about where to cover at which points in general. If you're just watching last game and this game, as a general spectator, like even the way that I usually watch it, if you don't watch the minimap as much as I do, especially, with what Spica has been expected to do and supposed to be doing in both these early games, you will definitely feel like Spica hasn't done anything, I think. I think it's a very natural conclusion, just given that he's been playing. He's had to path, very defensively, given the team comps and circumstances. He made like that one dive play last game. He got caught this game. Now he's getting hooked, but he rides River out. Ooh, he still goes down. So here, there's nothing to compete for. The bot wave is neutral. They have a control ward they might want to defend. Mid wave is neutral. Bot wave is neutral. Dragon is not up. It's more than 2.5 minutes away. They have a dig control ward that they want to clear and try. And they have their own control ward to defend. Now they see the enemy formation is more split up than we are. But when you've got a Yuumi and they've got a Thresh, a little bit of a power differential in a 3v3, I think. Unless you can get like a perfect Yuumi ult. Which, when they're split up, having the enemy formation split up does not lend itself to a perfect Yuumi ult. I don't think. Graves' TP is not unlocked yet, so he can only TP to a friendly turret. So that this is just going to be a pure 3v3. But Spica gets hooked. He could have flashed that. And of course, they might not have known it was going to be a 3v3. Maybe they thought they could catch Neo out alone. But it ends up being really pretty bad. Maybe they thought Kaido could join with a realm warp. So maybe it's another situation where, and okay, Spica just bought now. Yeah, he's got 2 ruby crystals. Like, he is not tanky at all yet. It might also be a case where he's just losing track of how early in the game they are, and the fact that he's not tanky. He's not going to be for a while yet, especially if they start falling behind. So he's face checking stuff that he doesn't really have the right to face check, and there wasn't really anything to go for there. And I think you're in a game state where you're not under a ton of pressure to make something happen. I've watched this enough times already. So this game isn't like out of hand yet. 1K and a dragon and these comps, I'm a little more concerned about it than I was last game, I think. But it's still an entirely winnable game. I wonder how much TSM's like style of play is carrying over like through Spica from last year, where he was playing with Power of Evil, who, okay, they're going for a play into top. Hey, look, just like last game, I think it was around a similar time too. They make a jungle mid play into top, get a kill, help Huni out, give up a little bit of a cross map, but not bad. In fact, last game they gave up a mid dive in exchange. This game they're getting up first turret, so, but they're gonna get the top turret. Where did they use Herald? What? They used it mid for plates there, okay. I was talking about something else, I guess. So anyways. That was just before the play where he got caught and hooked. Anyways, so it's right around there, yeah. As I was saying, like playing with Power of Evil, who is much less of a push and move kind of mid laner and more of a like, be really defensive in lane, don't give anything up, get my farm out, get my scaling in, and play team fights well, right? Like where Spica would be asked to path a lot more defensively, prevent dives, to prevent invades, and that's what this Poppy. So partly it's a Poppy thing, but I wonder how much of it is learned behavior from the way he played last year thing for Spica. That he has generally, had good defensive pathing choices, but yeah, meta and changes to the game are definitely part of it as well. Do you think Spica is trying to fill gaps in the team kind of like Bjergsen did so people can play to their strengths? Well, I think what I'm saying is he did more. Like, I think that was definitely true of Spica last year, that he played certain ways to allow Power of Evil's strengths to shine. And to some extent, Huni, right? Letting Huni play for a lot of aggression and push and top lane prio, that kind of stuff. So play to Huni's side, which they've definitely been doing the last couple of games. That kind of stuff. But I'm not sure that right now Spica is doing that because of his current teammates and because of meta and comps. Like, to me, it so far it has seemed like he's doing generally the correct broad brushstrokes for the comps, but I'm thinking more that it's a continuation from the way he played last year, which could be because he doesn't even know his new teammates that well yet, right? Like, he's still learning what kind of a mid laner Kaijuo really is. He's still learning what kind of support Shen Yi really is. So he's going to play, presumably, what's more comfortable for him. Huni dying here is not the worst thing, because the fact, like, it's more of an issue of how were Dig able to get 4 people there. But when you look at TSM, they're crashing mid and bot in exchange for this. They might not get either of the turrets, but they're going to get really close so that on a future push they'll be able to finish them. They might finish bot turret here. So giving up an outer plus a kill in exchange for an inner, as long as Tactile doesn't die here, that's not a bad trade. Dragon's not up, so you're not going to, like, give up. Now, there is going to be a 90 seconds Dragon up, and if this generates a tempo swing where they can now rotate their top pressure around to bottom side and have control of Dragon, that is a bit of a consequence. But yeah, they haven't even... But yeah, it's taking longer for Blue to finish his top turret, so now Dig are going to try to swing their map control around. They're going to want to switch Blue and Fake God, unless they want Blue to TP down in a minute. I would think you'd want Fake God top now. I don't know why Blue is staying top lane. To try to kill Huni. Obviously. And doesn't get him, but it's close. He spent his flash and his ult and didn't get him. And right now, Blue should be pushing out Prio on bot lane, while Fake God is walking out into top lane. If Blue hadn't done that, right about now, Huni would have this wave, be meeting this wave about here, and Fake God would be walking out to catch it and get it pushing the other direction. And Blue would be here pushing out this wave, while the rest of them, I mean, Neo's behind in his tempo. Oh, he's resetting out of mid. Did he stay an extra wave too? Yeah, he kind of did. I think Dig are griefing their tempo a little bit here. Blue, Neo probably wants enough gold to finish an item here. Let's see what he buys. And that's understandable then. Pickaxe, cloak. No, I would rather have Neo have recalled off that wave. Assuming that you know they're not pushing it in. No, it's going to die to turret if he doesn't do this, actually. I'm overthinking it. Right here, he could be recalling with Jarvan. No? I don't know, I'm fixating on Neo, but... Right there. Recall right there. Now he hits space. Yeah, they might lose a few CS. It's a bit of a tough call. I'm staring at Minimap that whole time, by the way. I should, like, do something where I've got a special view locked into the minimap and I can blow it up in the middle. It'll be really ugly, but I don't want to take time in the middle of the stream to set that up. But maybe I'll do that in the future. Because if if you're not aware, I spend probably 85% of the game just staring at the minimap. And if I'm not pointing with my mouse especially, you probably don't know what I'm looking at. But anyways, now Blue has to TP out to join this setup. And they're still here for it. It's, you know, it's fine. but I think Dig could have had a much better posture on the map, where right now Fake Godpete could be now, with his TP, starting to threaten a push top lane. Regardless, TSM go for an engage here. Bifrost lanterns out river. So TSM spanned 4 ults there in exchange for 3 ults. Yeah, see, if I had eye tracking software, then the indicator of where my eyes are would cover important information on the minimap. So I don't know if that would be very practical. It's so small. Don't want to cover any of it up. So Biofrost and River are hatching a ward here, and that's what Spica's walking up to. And he just goes on River, but River stopwatch, ult into stopwatch into lantern. That's a really nice play from River. So now TSM are lacking some pretty important tools. Shenyu used Yumi ult for that engage, I guess? Let's see. He's on tactical. Yeah, he used it to try to layer. Yeah, and he just got immune to my fake god. That's a... See, if they were going to go for this, Shenyu needs to have hopped... Oops. What? No, thank you. YouTube. What did I just do? I think I just pressed a button that skipped me to a weird spot of the video. Let me find that back real quick. Okay, I'm back. This is the one, right? 20 minutes? I think I hit the 0 on my number pad and it jumped me to the beginning of the video. Yeah, that's the one. I think Shenyu wanted to be on Spica if they're going to engage that. But it still wouldn't have worked because there was still the stopwatch and there was still the lantern. Most likely it probably still wouldn't have worked. So now what's going to play out here? Spica might want to deny Jarvan getting in with his W and then smite secure it. He gets the smite, so far so good. I don't think they need to rush this. They can say, okay, we got it. We're going to lose position on mid lane here. We might lose our mid turret, but at least we got the dragon, so they're not on soul point yet. This early in the game, you're not worried about Baron, probably. So that could have gone better, but it's not bad. I think you can feel kind of okay about it. Now, since they spent some time to take that mid turret, you generated a bit of tempo with a couple of resets. Now Kaido is going to try to steal blue, but he can't quite do it. Okay. Into the next cycle. There's a cycle for you. Now, they don't see Biofrost here, I guess. But they know that they've got a strong position on top side here. Did they see what River was doing? No, I don't think so. They don't know where River is. But I think they know Fake God's bot, obviously, but he has TP. And so does Guidewell. I think they saw that blue was there. Guidewell has ult, so he can join this if he needs to, and that's why he's... Is he clearing control ward, or is he just... Yeah, he's clearing a control ward. That's why he's standing around there. And so in the meantime, then... Bam. They get a pick. And... Oh. Well, that's not so good. Now they think, okay, we got this. Now, Kaido is going to push mid, blah, blah, blah. Did Tactical walk forward into that? Yeah. He ulted. I think he thought he might be able to kill Neo. But it wasn't even a little bit close. Unfortunate. Also, this is starting to bug me just enough. There, now it's not bugging me quite so much. There we go. I remember that one now. He had flash up and everything. It's quite a thing right there. Yes, as that guy who owns a hat is pointing out in chat. You look at the itemization between the Rise and the Gwen here. Gwen is level 14, Rise is level 14. Rise has 3 completed items in boots. Gwen has 1 completed item, boots, 2 components. You can see how Kaido thinks. I've got him to half. Great. Now I just, outlast his W and turn around and get him more. But then the Gwen just ults on him, sustains it all, uses Ignite, and just wrecks you. And then look at Fake God's buy after this, by the way. Look at that buy. Okay, never mind. It wasn't quite as much, so he just completes the 1 item. I thought I saw him add a whole other item on top of that, but I was just seeing it wrong. Now, with Kaido dead, Dig are going to Baron bait. They try to pick off Fake God, and it's working. River turns around on this. So they do have good tools, right? With Poppy and then like Yumi, Graves. They destroy Dig's front line there, and it's not much of a real front line, but huh. So now TSM, we're kind of trying for Baron, but I think it's pretty greedy. I think they should be. I think they should have been starting to try to prep the map for Dragon. The thing is, it's a little early. Like, resetting right around now to start to get your lanes pushed out and get a position on Dragon is even maybe still a touch earlier than you need. So I think they had time to try for that just in case Dig didn't handle it very well. Kind of fine with that call. So I see that there's little discussion about tactical in the chat, and I think, I have more thoughts that I could share about it, and especially if I VOD reviewed him specifically. But obviously I've been keeping an eye on him in these games a little bit so far and trying to remember from the weekend. But I think tactical has not looked great. I think obviously that Zeri mistake he just made a couple minutes ago we saw. There have been other moments where he got kind of caught a bit. But my impression is that his level of play has not looked too different from 2021 to me. But when you put it in the context of this TSM team and where they're at right now, they're so early. Obviously, Kaido and Shenyi are still so early in their careers. They're so early together as a team. They've got all these, communication systems to try to set up. When you put tactical into that context, as opposed to the context he was in last year when he's playing with Core JJ, he's playing with this super veteran lineup, and he's allowed to be the Tristana who W's into things, then you're going to get a different set of outcomes for the same level and style of play. And I think that's mostly what people are seeing out of tactical so far. I think he's the same tactical, but he's not in the same environment. And I don't think he needs to change himself too much. Obviously, he needs to clean up some mistakes that are just straight up mistakes, right? And he's making some of those. But he made some of those last year too. And he's needed to clean those up regardless. But once this team is working together better, and he's doing that as follow-up on a big engage and stuff, we're going to see those big tactical teamfight moments more often. And he's going to offset everything more effectively and look better overall. Ooh, got it. Quick review of the macro setup here. Yeah, so they don't really have prio top or bot, but they don't really care or have time to care. They just 5-man, get a little vision pocket. Kaido is a little behind the play, but it's okay. He's tank rise. They burn the dragon down really fast. And they get out. Which I'm not sure they should have been able to get there so easily. Whereas Biofrost with the flash flay or something. Does Dig want that? Blue is trailing behind. He's also got flash alt. What happens if Dig all just like pile in and flash on them? Of course, Spica has W to try to prevent some of it, like so you're not going to get a big Jarvan dunk in. But you've got enough range that Poppy's not going to zone your damage out. They're all clumped up. Hey, Yuumi ult you have to worry about. Poppy ult you have to worry about. Graves bursting you. Sure. But I think you've got a lot of threat as Dig here that you get a flash flay in to interrupt the rise. You lay down the box. You ignite tactical. You get Victor doesn't have ult actually. Aphelios doesn't have ult. Gwen doesn't have ult. Okay. Seeing all the ults being done, you go, yeah, never mind. We don't have this. So you're not going to commit and super all in on that. If you had either Aphelios ult or Victor ult, then I think you're calling for Thresh. We'll blow them up. Like, go for it. But they probably knew, like, hey, we'll get him next time. I'm just remembering that I've got at least one really long game from week 2 to get through. TSM are using the timer they have from Fake God, having to push out bot lane, but they can't quite find anything. And they don't, like, unless you have a really good Poppy E into a Yuumi ult or something like that, you don't really have strong engage. You have very situational and kind of difficult to pull off engage, so. Kind of fishing here, but it's hard against us, especially against a Thresh Lantern if they space it out properly. I haven't really seen Spica do a whole lot in team fights. I don't think he's had a whole lot of opportunity, but I would like to see Spica like pull off some kind of good team fight play. And not just kind of allow the team fights to happen. But when that happens, like, what are you going to do? Like, well, now we don't have a team fight. Because somebody on our team face checked a Thresh again. And because we didn't have the map set up where we didn't have to face check the Thresh. Because they don't wave clear as well as Victor, Aphelios. They don't outrange. So TSM are actually, like, as I start to see this play out more, and I don't think I really diagnosed it at draft. I don't remember what I said about draft exactly. But but TSM are getting outscaled on range. They're getting outscaled on, like, side laning because they can't handle the Gwen, I don't think. Well, I mean, we saw what Gwen did to Ryze earlier. And I don't think that gets better with more items because Gwen was already way down in items. So I think this game is getting away from them. That's a strange choice to Poppy E there. So he W's. So if we look here, so we'll slow this down. Spica W is here to prevent Gwen from dashing away. Then Gwen puts up W, is immune to tacticals damage right there. I'm not sure, but I wonder if Spica's thinking kind of like Camille are. I'm going to push her outside the zone to cancel the zone so that tactical and the amateur. If he's thinking that, it's a mistake because Gwen's W relocates once, right? And you can see, as right there, it didn't even quite push him out of the zone. But if it had, and now he moved his zone, and it's on him again. So, like, that wasn't going to work regardless. Was he doing it? It pushes him away from Huni being able to join in. Or Kaijuo. And I'm trying to think of another explanation for him doing that. For damage? No. Poppy E damage, like, that's not going to make a difference on anything. If anything, he could go for like the like an insect style, like flash behind and then E towards his own team. But I just can't think of a, other than thinking it's gonna, cancel the Gwen W. I can't think of a reason he'd do it. And in this phase of the fight, you can use it to counterplay the Jarvan ult, like to use that as a stun option. He could use it to try to jump a carry. But now, you think maybe he was trying to hit him into... You think maybe he was trying to hit him into this wall? No, it's way too late for that when he uses it. Right there. Maybe he thinks he's going to catch it on that little corner there? I don't think so. I don't think so. Like, he could have... Right here, he could have gone for, like, a flash E. But knowing that Gwen has W up, like, it's just going to be hard. I don't think the Thresh had anything to do with it either. I just think there wasn't... You're not going to pick off that Gwen. I mean, it's a level 17 Gwen also, for what it's worth. With a W available. Like, you were just never... That was never likely to be a pick. It just feels a little... Got to do something-ish. It's like when the pressure... As the pressure is being put on this team more and more in specific scenarios, like certain team fight setups or things where they're kind of scattering or being a little chaotic, or as the game starts to get out of hand like it has in this one, the mistakes are creeping in a little bit more from everyone, including Spica. Now, I'm not sure what they're posturing mid so hard for. Dragon's not anywhere close. Baron is up, but you got plenty of time. Check with the Yumi Q. Mm-hmm. 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 Mm. 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 Mm-hmm. With Rise and Poppy as damage here, I don't think you can take this. I think the Victor stops this. Doesn't he? Yeah. Ooh, ooh, I want to go back and watch that fight. Stop doing stuff. We'll fast forward through the actual broadcast replay. Huni's bot has TP. Aha, Fake God is bot. We can TP first. Now, how does Spica play this fight? He's got Yuumi on him. Good. Now, does he want to counter-engage this hook and deliver a Yuumi ult right up the gut here? Because what that could do is your front line is tankier than their front line, right? Your Poppy is a real tank. Jarvan is not really a real tank. If you go in, deliver a Yuumi ult on Victor Aphelios, they're going to kill you. It's going to take a little while with the Yuumi ult stalling them and your tankiness and so on. Maybe you can even flash out and live. Your carries are going to blow up. You have to think the Jarvan much faster than your Poppy's going to die. So I think that's the play here. Or you counterplay the Jarvan ult, which I talked about before, by stunning him into it and just helping your carries kill him even faster while staying as healthy as possible, which is what he chooses to do. With the Yuumi ult still going out to help disengage a little bit. Now Huni arrives behind. How do the TPs go here? Huni TPs first. Fake God about a second and a half behind. The TP position for Fake God is a little preferable because he's closer in, which is just, what's available, right? And they turn on Huni instantly, but he trades himself for Neo, which is totally fine. So at this point, you're feeling really good about this fight as TSM. Obviously, if Huni's able to not die there, it's great, but you're not like... So he ease in, I think. I wonder, like, if he... I think he could have played it slower. But I'm not sure. It's not a huge deal. And Fake God, of course, gets tactical, eventually dies himself, and then the rest of this all plays out. So they can't Baron. I do wonder... So I don't think River had, like, assassination threat on tactical. Obviously not on Kaido, he's a tanky Rise. Like, I wonder whether Spica would have been better off just zoning back the carries rather than... But I mean, he was doing almost all of the zoning work he would have done by walking up, just by, counter engaging the Jarvan anyways, because the Yuumi ult has almost the same reach it would have if he was standing forward. So I think it probably was the right call. Now Dragon's almost up. It's a soul for Dig, so this is really important for TSM. Dig are going to try to threaten Baron trade for it. This is where Huni doesn't have TP, but he can go and solo the Dragon while the rest just try to stall Baron. Biofrost hooks Spica. He uses W early just in case there's like a Jarvan coming in or something. I guess to try to speed boost himself away from the hook range. So obviously with the Aphelios, he's got red-white, by the way. Hitting Baron, it goes down really, really fast this late in the game. Huni is committed to securing this dragon, so TSM, their goal is just to stall. They don't want to give up a couple of deaths in order to stall the Baron, because you might just lose an inhibitor off those death timers. Why is Yuumi on Zeri here? So, like, here it's fine, because you're trying to protect the wave pushing. But should be trying to switch onto the Poppy here. And he's moving up, but he's not moving up to join the front line. He's staying on the Zeri. Now he jumps to the Rise. Okay, so he kind of made it in time. But, oof. He doesn't respect the Fake God damage coming in here, I think, and blue. So Yuumi ult doesn't come in here. Fake God just goes in, Zhonya's, assassinates the Zeri. Meanwhile, the Baron has gone down so fast. Huni even aborted his dragon take. Said like, abort mission. I'm gonna go join. But wow, fake god. Look at that with a Victor alt on top. And that's it. Soul as well. Like, what else, what could TSM have done alternatively? They could just they could have committed to Dragon and given up the Baron. And in fact, I think they could probably not lose an inhib off that Baron. And if so, that's a winning trade. You're not getting Soul, but you're denying Soul. And you're not losing the game. But under most circumstances, sending your Graves to solo the Dragon while the rest of you stall the Baron seems like a decent trade, because you might still end up trading the Dragon for the Baron, but you might be able to stop the Baron. So like it's not a bad shot call generally speaking, but obviously under the circumstances that we've actually seen and with the benefit of hindsight, we know like, oh, they should have just played it extra safe and just taken the trade. But that's not really fair to apply that logic in retrospect. I think in a textbook shot call there, what they did was, a good, more advanced version of the play. Spica's still just arriving from respawn here, so there's not much they can do. They're all spread out. Huni was trying to set a trap here. He doesn't really have the right to trap. People on his team are dead. The Realm Orb comes in from Kaido. They try to jump fake quad, but hey, by the way, he's a level 18 Gwen. Doesn't have Zanya's up, but good luck. And that's it, right? Yeah. All right. Now, FlyQuest. Let's keep it rolling, because I don't want to be up all night. What does he play this time? We got a Lee Sin game and a Xin Zhao game. Let's get some variety. That's good. YouTube ads once again. Blah, blah, blah. So, TSM have played fairly defensive early comps, I think, both times, without the clearest late game win conditions relative to enemy comps. So let's see what they do this time with their draft. How do they change things up? Here we go. Here, I'll even move my camera off the draft for you. First pick Lee Sin. They banned Xin Zhao. And they first picked Lee Sin. That's a very different draft right away. Jinx Tom Kench in response. Aphelios Victor because they lost to it, I guess, and so they want to... You get the salty, like, it beat us last time, so we're going to use it to beat someone else this time. Jarvan, so he's playing against... Is that playing against Jarvan all 3 games so far? I think so. Warren. Big time front to back against strong side top with lots of engage. But carries that aren't the longest range to follow up that engage. So that's a little bit off. You've got a like a Renekton. In theory, you've got a Renekton that wants to play aggressive in his lane, but you've got a double AD top side against Ornn. Ornn was last picked into you, but I mean they could have picked any tank into this, or anybody who's comfortable building a little bit of armor really. If you're gonna engage straight up on them, like okay, if you get a Renekton flank, you still have to deal with the Tahm Kench. And the Ornn for that matter. Like, they can peel your flanks really well. They can turn on your flank really well. So it's going to be really hard for Renekton in team fights, I think. If your Rakan gets a great flank, that's going to be a lot better. If your Rakan and Renekton can, pincer the fight, great. But I do think TSM are going to have to manufacture a lot of map control to get a start to a team fight that's going to work for them. Like, a lot. And it's going to be really hard to snowball through the Renekton with a Lee Sin. And it doesn't even hurt that much as an Ornn to have them try to snowball into you. So I'm not a huge fan of this TSM comp. It is a different look, which I appreciate as a VOD reviewer. But I don't know that the win conditions are clear. I think you get outscaled. You get very outranged by the Zoe and even by the Jinx. Yeah, Victor has some range. He can check stuff with his laser and poke and things like that, but he doesn't have anyone to help with that. I feel like this is very situational, like Q poke on a certain weapon. He's pathing top to bot, which he's done every game so far, despite having a Renekton. I guess just... Oof. I'm not going to dissect that. Again, just like knowing that his bot lane is going to be vulnerable and that he wants to cover them, that makes a little more sense as a Poppy, I think, than it does as a Lee Sin. I think ganking a Tahm Kench Jinx early could work if the Rakan does well with his CC, but it's going to be also kind of tough. You're only going to blow sums. And if the Jarvan is pathing appropriately, which he is, he can cover that and counter gank you. So it's kind of like, I don't think there's much of a play to be made bot unless you're planning to burn sums and come back. And of course that was out the window once they lost that early trade and lost their sums. If you path topside, you're not likely to be killing the Ornn, but you might be able to do this. Like they could have done this on the previous cannon wave. It's too late to try to... I mean, not too late. There's no prep for this dive in terms of health bars. There's a little bit. I'm lying. I'm thinking more like you'd be zoning the Ornn back and trying to get the Renekton to snowball through plates, and then, later on you get the Herald, you look through the first turret, and you just do a gold snowball that way. I don't think you're going to dive. You're not really planning to chain dive the Ornn. You're not going to get prio out of mid from your Victor to help with that against a Zoe, I'm pretty sure. I went too far back here. Like, the moral of everything I'm saying here is, even aside from the way his team is playing in the bot lane, this seems like a really hard early game for Spica to get anything done. But that being said, I still think he should have pathed bot to top. So Kuma's almost full. Actually, from what I remember, and let me see if I can remember exactly why. So he goes unstoppable here to stall the stun. He doesn't immune the stun. Right there, the stun comes in. So Huni has Rage, or whatever it's called, Fury, whatever Renekton's is called. He has it, and he uses it. Did he use it on a Q there? No, he didn't. So he used it on an empowered W, but Kumo stalled it out and knew that Kumo knew obviously what they want to do is they want to stun me, they want to chunk me, they want to juggle tower aggro. But he also knows I've got my Jarvan deploying out from his first reset. He pathed top to bot, which means that his first deploy is going to come top for this next camp. And here, let's take a quick jump back. See whether TSM knew which direction Jarvan pathed in. Yeah, there's a blue ward there. And they should see him on it right there. Yeah, they know exactly. And even without specifically seeing him, they should have a pretty clear idea of what Jarvan has done, because they did see him bot side later. And the way even just the way Johnson Aftermove played their lane would imply where Jarvan was, unless they're faking it, right? And so even this dive, this dive has to happen fast. Otherwise, you're worried Jarvan is naturally going to be able to be here to counter this. So it has to happen fast. Kumo goes, hey, I'm unstoppable, so you don't want to stun me yet. Then they stun him. Then but now it's too late. So that wasn't really a dive angle to me. That was a Krug invade angle. Right here, you say, we've got a cannon wave crashing. We're going to invade Krugs, which means either we 2v1 you at Krugs, or you let us have them. If Ornn comes to 2v2 us at Krugs, you're losing CS. That's the angle here, is a Krugs invade. I don't know whose call this is, right? I don't know whether this is Huni calling for the dive, saying, no, we can do it. We can do it fast. Kumo has a cloth armor, by the way, which he built in lane, of course. I don't know if that's Spica's call saying we can do it fast. So in a situation like this where you don't know whose call it is, and of course if one of them calls it and starts doing it, the other one has to follow and you got to try. You can't just abandon the other person to it. And they're going to get ganked across map by Tukui. Even I'm starting to say it wrong. No. Tukui. Anyways, if either Huni or Spica goes, they both have to go. So I just give full blame to both of them in that case. That's my honest take there. One of them has to be loud enough to say, no, this is bad. Or to give the better idea of, let's steal Krugs. And now this game is going to get pretty ugly pretty fast, I think. 1,000 gold with these comps, where your only real window was to somehow miraculously snowball your Renekton, I think. Or find some great team fight, maybe a great Herald fight. But then you need Recon 6 by Herald, which you have to do very specific things to achieve that. I don't know if there's going to be a whole lot more to say about this game. I don't want to belabor a point. I don't remember if there's a partial comeback or something. So let's see. At the risk of losing information by turning it off too early. Twitch chat says there's no comeback. Okay, that's good. Thank you, even though your name is not my business. How do I feel about this Herald rotation? So many pings I can't see what's going on the minimap. Okay, so they have bot push, tactical and Shen Yu move way in advance. They also have top push, and Kaido is dumping all of his mana, including his ult, for mid prio. I feel less great about that, but overall this is and Johnson and Aftermove follow because they're so far behind that we gotta try to get a fight because we're not going to get plates. But they do have Ornn flanking with an ult. They get the Herald, they pick it up, and they get dunked. Generally speaking, this rotation is way ahead. Now I gotta get the overlay to hide so I can see the gold gap. It's only 1,000 gold. It's a Cloud Drake. Yeah, you do have good call out. You have red and white on Aphelios. You feel like circumstantially we've executed this pretty well. We've got the setup we want. Unfortunately, wait, Recall and Alt is down. What? Our Victor Alt, which is a pretty important tool to blow up the Jarvan if he jumps us, that's down. Now I don't know what the lead up to this mid wave situation was, and whether Kaido had to ult to secure that wave. I don't think he did though. No, you don't. That's a waste right there to get a little bit of basic, a little bit of poke on the Zoe, and then okay. But I think they had a shot call, and this is where Shen uses the ult as well. But if so, if their call is we can pick off Tukui here, then Kaido telegraphed it, and or Shenyu is too late or whatever. But there's also, like, as much as I can say Kaido telegraphed this or wasted his ult or whatever, you can tell pretty early on this isn't going to happen. Like right here, you're like, oh, guess what? He still also has his natural flash, and he's got an exhaust and everything. Right there, activating your ult right there. What are you activating it for? You're not going to reach him. I don't think. I mean, maybe if Kaido walks forward and you can dash to him and then dash in. But I think that's just a really bad read by TSM, and they blow two of their most important cooldowns. And now Shinyi just gets wrecked trying to control the zone a little bit. Kaido's out of mana. I think Kaido and Shinyi both played it poorly, especially Shinyi. Because TSM overall had a map set up that could have worked. And that was a fight they wanted, I think. I don't think they want to wait another 10 minutes and try it again. Like, they wanted that at that point. And winning a big Herald fight was a path back into the game, potentially. But all that had to happen was Tukui just step back a little bit and say thanks for the cooldowns. And now I will hit you in a choke point. This is definitely the most disappointing game of the three by far. Or so far, rather. By far is a little strong. I mean, so far. Game one was the best of the three. They were in that. I don't think TSM have done themselves favors and draft any of these three. But I don't know that I could necessarily go back and pick apart all the individual picks and how they could have set it up better. And I don't think anyone on the team has been like, look, I'm setting this up. You just kind of come along with me and I'll bring you there. Like, obviously Kaido did some good things in game one. They played relatively clean at points, especially in the early game one, and game two overall wasn't that bad. But they haven't done any of the player difference stuff that would be needed to overcome challenging circumstances of team comps or whatever. I'd say the positive play count and the mistake count for Spica are relatively even so far in these first three games. Maybe a little bit higher on the mistake count. He does generate some goodwill with just, the defensive pathing stuff that I appreciated earlier. No, right about there is where you go. I got my vision. If they go on it, at least I know they're there. Rough Luck says, I think Shenyi is too used to the FPX playstyle there, where if the same thing happened, they would have all gone ham on the Zoe. Yeah. I mean, maybe. When I watched Shenyi's games with FPX, the 5 games that he played at the end of summer, and I mean, you can watch my VOD review that I did of him when I watched some of those games on stream. Shenyi was definitely the one following calls. The team was setting up map states and fight approaches that were good, and then all he had to do is walk forward and use his skills and get on someone. And so it kind of leads into that if Kaido is going to be the one saying hey, we got a target here, go for it. And then Shenyi's like, all right, you said to go for it, so off I go. And if the setup's good, it works. And if it's not, whatever. But so it kind of lines up with that, but I'm not sure if it's a team coordination thing, like the team all being on the same page there and not being on the same page here. I think it was just the setup wasn't good, and he didn't have the ability to read for himself whether it was a setup that he could capitalize on or not. So here they've got an overload into top side. They've got a tactical leaning from mid lane. They can see that Johnson is bot, so they know at worst we're about to have like a if tactical actually comes, we're going to be able to get a 5v4. Spica and Shen Yi go in, but here, okay, I remember this play. Let's see the consequences first. Nice save by Aframu. Thought I remember this play. Okay, here we go. No, it's not the one I'm thinking of. Maybe it is. Let's just watch the natural replay on this one. Oh, and Kumo TP's mid to clear the cannon wave. So Spica and Shen Yi take the blast cone in onto Krugs. Meanwhile, Huni and Kaido are trying to clear a wave to hit the turret some more and finish it. You know how I was saying earlier that when the pressure was on, it seemed like this TSM team started making mistakes, both individual mistakes, but even more noticeably that they just didn't have a clear idea of what they were doing and who was doing it. Come on, you got to show a replay of this. Okay, we're going back. Here we go. So right here, Huni and Kaido have just had their wave cleared by Kumo. But Spica has stolen red, and they're going to blast cone in. So they're like, so Huni and Kaido are saying, we're going to clear this wave. You guys are going to zone them back, and we're going to take the turret. Spica and Shen Yi are saying, we're going to jump in here and kill these guys. Now, they may not know Aframu's here. But regardless, you can't, like, you're 2v2ing at best, 2v3ing, or even 2v4ing at worst. And look how far away, like, the overlay's covering Kaido. That's how far away he is. If you've got one of those guys here and you can see C-Chain from the Renekton, or, you know, a Gravity Well or whatever, maybe you've got something. If Huni and Kaido moved as Kumo was clearing the wave and didn't stay to clear the wave themselves and try to set up the tower push, they've got a play. In fact, they've got a pretty good play, I think. But they're doing two completely different things at the same time. And so instead, this turns into lost map control bot lane from a free push by Johnson. They lose Huni. They lose second Herald because now they, you know, now other team has tempo that they're playing with. So, I mean, so far, first game of week 2, I think looks noticeably worse than either of the games in game 1. And I mean, to the extent that you might be thinking, hey, why aren't you giving FlyQuest credit for any of the things they're doing? It's because I'm VOD reviewing Spica, right? I am very specifically and intentionally focused on Spica and his team. But that doesn't mean FlyQuest don't deserve credit for what they're doing here, or any of the other opponents TSM are facing, of course. Just I can't talk about all things from all angles at all times. What are you going to do? You have no sums. They've got an Ornalt. By the time the Ornalt is at all in range, you're doomed. And I can't be bothered to go back and see whether Tactical should have been able to rotate out of that one in time or something, because it doesn't really matter. No. Flash ult, Jose. Do it. You get a flash trade. Objective bounty. Ooh, a team fight. Team fights are fun. Now look, they just have to like, excuse me, walk in through vision into a choke against a Zoe. Baron's gone. Kumo kind of, Spica gets forced back by Tukui here. Pow. And Johnson. That's to flash. Look at that little Zoe go. Zoom. Pow. What? Is he just trying to see them here? I like this little thing. Okay, this is just a fun thing with Zoe R that I'm sure most people know about, but like when you are beside a wall, it gives you vision over the wall because you go up in the air. Yay! Look at this. Oh, you can see over the wall because you're jumping up in the air over the wall. I just find it cute. Just a little girl like jumping over the wall to see on the other side. So that R looked weird because I figured, why isn't he throwing a paddle star with her or whatever? But like, oh yeah, because he can see over the wall. It's the little things in life. Something is happening. The thing that is happening is that Spica and Shenyi are trying to pick off Johnson, but they just can't do it. But I don't blame them for trying. The last few minutes of this game have been more or less irrelevant. I just want to see if anything surprising happens. I say this kind of thing so many times, so like this play here where they, like this right here, where we come into the replay, and devoid of context, this is like Shenyi and Spica are totally inting. Look at this. They try to get somebody, and they just like die. But, of course, given that the game is so far out of hand, 3 dragons, a huge gold difference, they have to be trying something. So I would never see that play in context and like take a demerit off of Spica or Shenyi for that play and go, oh, look how many times they inted. No, every criticism I have of them comes from the first 10, 12 minutes of the game pretty much. And everything after that is just like, you can kind of just strike it from the record. Unless it's a good comeback. And I think that's a very important thing to be able to do in player and team assessments. Focus on the parts of the game that actually matter. And use the rest of them for some flavor and some context, but don't use them to actually like... when a player goes 0-7 or something like that, if the game was lost when they were 0-2, then who cares that they went 0-7? What matters is they went 0-2. But you see a lot of games where people will be like, look, he went 0-7. Well, okay. How many of those deaths were relevant to the actual outcome of the game? That happens a lot. Yeah, come on. Is this game not over yet? I know the next one's really long, so I want to get into it. Hooney's going to try for something here, isn't he? Oh, Shinyi's going to try for something. Yeah, it's not bad. You know, that's not bad. Spica's in the flank, and they don't even see him. Shinyi gets in. Oh, but Spica can't quite find... Jose goes in, and they kill Jose, okay? But Tactical and Kaido are zoned back from it. Wait. What was... Spica didn't even really try. Look. Either you miraculously win this fight, or the game's over, which it was anyways. So why would you not, like... Okay, he doesn't have his flash. Spica doesn't have his flash here. He hits Q on... That's on Aphromu. He's got, you know, the charms coming in here. I think you at least kick Aphromu away so that you isolate Tukui. Like, I guess it's too late. Huni wasn't quite in and Shenyu was already dead, I guess. But, like, I think you just kind of, like, sell the farm and try. Spica didn't really try. I wonder if that's any kind of a sign of tilt. I don't know how he tilts or whatever, but... And again, it doesn't really matter, because this game is so far over, but... See, that's a case where... I mean, he did die, but I would have liked to see him die trying, and I would have actually felt better about it. Anyways. And finally... Did I have my camera in the wrong place that entire game? I am really good at this. I'm really, really very good at this. But nobody said anything, so I blame you. Let's see the draft results here. At least I wasn't covering the minimap with my camera, right? So, a first pick jungler again. So after picking the Poppy in like second rotation, I think it was, the first two games, they're first picking jungler. They banned Jarvan. Spica's just like, I'm sick of playing against Jarvan 3 games in a row. We're banning it. Against Pride Stalker, of all people. Yeah. Yeah. First pick's in. Felius Leona. With Thresh up. That's an odd choice. Jinx Lulu. So now you've got a pushing bottom lane for once. Wait a second. See, you do have a pushing bot lane. I'd forgotten. But then they get the rel later. Because it's a top lane smite Lulu. So they're going to do something completely different. Forget about jungle pathing top to bot while we have a pushing top laner and then joining him on our first redeploy and covering his pushes. Who needs top lane pushes? Who needs a top laner? Forget about all that nonsense. So this is where they reveal it's the top lane Lulu by picking the rel. And you're up against a Zed. Because you're playing against Pride Stalker, by the way. Why would you ban Jarvan? So Spica's job, get buffed. He only has Lulu to buff him, though. So they're going to have like Rel Vex engaging with Xin Zhao going in there, wreaking havoc. Jinx to clean up. Lulu to just either buff the Xin or protect the Jinx or whatever the circumstances call for. And of course, they're just going to be trying to snowball through bottom lane faster than the Graves can snowball through top lane. They go for a level 5 or a level 1 5v5. Shinyi goes in and gets Licorice. They get the first blood, and Spica gets it. I don't know how to judge who wins draft in this game because Smite Enchanter top lane, like, I don't even want to think about it. I'm not a fan. It's boring. But I don't think this is the best Smite Enchanter top lane comp I've seen because I think it does work better with... Probably it works better with 2 Enchanters. I think you want to get, like, another Enchanter support probably because of the range and the ability to push a little better than a melee support. Then you can really index harder into having a hyper carry. But I do not like Zed Jungle, even though it's working kind of so far for Pride Stalker. So I don't really like either of these drafts just because I'm a grumpy old man, maybe. So he gets the, after the first blood off the invade, he full clears the enemy. And this is actually an interesting little bit of pathing here. Because obviously you've got your standard pathing where you've chosen, I'm going to do these camps in this order on this timing to arrive for this wave, whatever. When something like that level 1 happens, it throws everything off and you have to think on your feet. You can't think off of experience, and pre-planning. So he chooses to full clear. He could have chosen to take only the blue buff, run through mid to his own blue buff, secure a 3 buff clear, kind of like 7 camps into crab, or even, here 3 camps, top crab, here 3 camps, bot side crab to cover his bot lane. Something like that. He chooses to do 3 camps back to his own red buff into defending his top side. Pride Stalker, on the other hand, reacts to what has happened by full clearing his top quadrant instead of invading, even though I believe the Graves has prio over the Lulu. So he could have reacted by, maybe not the timer. He's not the one who died, so he had plenty of time to... They would have known if he immediately started in the enemy quadrant, but I don't know that it really matters if they would know, because to punish it, I'm trying to think, like, would Spica running blue to blue been able to punish him starting enemy blue? But no, because he would have had the blue and been out. If you do that, though, you either get enough info that you can trade a full quadrant back to your own quadrant, or you're only going to be taking blue back to here. But if they're fast enough to attack you when you go from 1-1 camp here, you can take blue back out, and you're still going to have 2 camps up here. Pride Stalker chooses to clear 3 camps, take the sword, and now try for blue, which is where it gets interesting because they're going to meet up. And let me move the camera here because I thought about it, but I didn't do it yet. There we go. So he pulls back the blue. His top laner has prio. His mid laner does not. But here's Spica. And Huni's like, hey, guess what? I don't care that you have top prio. I'm planning to give up all these minions pretty much regardless. So here, I'll move and meet you at the same time. And I've got more range. And my Vex has prio. So if we draw this battle out, which we can do a little bit with a Lulu, we're going to 3v2 you. And suddenly Pride Stalker and Licorice are like, huh. Oh, yeah. So it's a little hard to know how much to give positive credit to Spica for those decisions versus taking demerits from Pride Stalker. I mostly lean towards criticizing Pride Stalker's decision there to not counter-invade immediately at level 1 once they gave up the first blood. I think Spica was just playing efficiently. I think Spica might have even thought if he stayed for 3 camps, I might find him. Because Zed's clear is pretty... I think... No, is Zed's clear slow? I don't know from experience, clearly. Zed clearing a Gromp seems like it'd be a little slow, but not too bad. No, it's probably not really slow, but it's not very healthy. Maybe he thought he'd find Pride Stalker on the third camp. No, he probably does plenty of damage, but I imagine he has maybe a slightly hard time keeping... Yeah, I'm like what am I... I was second-guessing myself pretty hard right away, because he obviously Zed can do a lot of damage. I don't remember some of the nuances of like his passive and stuff. But... yeah. See, and if I was a color caster, boy, would I be getting flamed. Yeah, like I'm not sure. I'm trying to think through Spica's decision making, what he expected to happen with the 3 camps into red buff into his own blue quadrant. Did he expect to find camps up because Pride Stalker took the blue and skedaddled and was spooked? Did he expect to find Pride Stalker still clearing a camp and be able to fight him? No, what am I thinking? Look, here's what Spica was doing. He was going, we're splitting the map. I'm full clearing your bottom side and then full clearing my bottom side. This is what Spica was thinking. He was thinking, come on camera, show it. That. This is what he's thinking. Oh, look. He started his own side and is now invading me. Therefore, I can meet him. That's what he was thinking. This is a read. This is Spica just being standard and smart, and then reading what Pride Stalker did, getting the vision off that control ward and being like, oh yeah. I mean, he doesn't even just need to see that Pride Stalker doesn't have a blue buff. Obviously, the red buff is a good clue, but he saw him walking in from that direction, right? So, no. Spica gets credit for reacting correctly to that, but Pride Stalker griefed that bit of pathing. It took me way too long to come to that conclusion and be confident in it, but I'm confident in it. Meanwhile, Kaido has lots of prio over a Blaze Olive mid, which I assume is just a Vex thing. Seems like more range and early wave clear. And here go. Now here's something where I'm remembering now. So I didn't see this game live. I watched the VOD yesterday. And now I'm remembering some of the things that stood out to me on it the first time. And right here is where Pride Stalker starts to get back in the game, and this enormous TSM kind of circumstantial lead for Spica and all that starts to slip away. So Huni has roamed down to bot, and they're going to gank. And right here, in goes Shenyi onto Ole, and that right there, this is not TSM. So I remember, and I'm not like trying to flame the casters or something, but like the cast here focused on TSM, which I'm doing because I'm doing a Spica and TSM VOD review. But it focused on TSM should not have made this play. Look, they can see Pride Stalker on a ward right here. They know he can counter gank them, and Spica's far away. If he does counter gank, it's still a 3v3, right? And sure, Huni is a support Lulu with no farm or whatever, but it's so early in the game that it doesn't really matter. He's level 4. I mean, their Aphelios hasn't bought, their Leona hasn't bought. I mean, their Zed hasn't really bought either. He has a longsword. What happens here that turns it around is Ole outplays them. Right here. Right there. You see that rooted there? And if you watch it slower, you can actually see what he does. Shenyi gets the initial CC into traps, but before the traps can activate, Ole uses Leona E onto Shenyi and dashes out of the traps. It's a teeny little dash, right? Like, right here. It's a teeny little dash distance, but he avoided the traps, and if those traps had connected, if I'm like 90% sure, if those traps proc on Ole, then even with... assume, yeah, right around there, he activates Leona W. Even with Leona W, I bet you they, if not kill him, at least make him flash out, and then they back off, and at worst, they've gained some sums. I'm pretty sure of that. But instead, Ole outplays them. He still has his flash and his ignite. And it gets turned around. That's my take on the fight. And I mean, you could probably debate it. I think Ole outplayed them. Hard to say. But regardless, they give up a couple kills. Pride Stalker comes in and, you know, Chaos is one of them, basically. Like, what does he actually do here? Lost lands a really good root, I think. Yeah, he procs 2 roots, and Pride Stalker jumps in and cleans it up. But Lost applying those 2 roots, and earlier Ole outplaying the initial CC chain. Big outplays. TSM of Cleanse Exhaust versus Heal Ignite. Yeah, difference in combat sums too. Like, I don't think TSM needed to force a big fight there, but I also don't know that they... Yeah, and here they're going through it all. I don't know that they were trying to force a huge fight there. I don't think they were trying to get a 3v3. I think they were trying to burn a flash, crash the wave after because they would force them to back off and then take plates. Because their whole goal with this comp, which got confusing after the first blood level 1 and then the pathing afterwards. So any practice you've done on here's how our first 6 waves play out with a Smite Lulu top, all that is out the window too, kind of, by the way, because Spica is suddenly doing something completely different. So they're just trying to get back on the rails, and they got outplayed. But they're still in this game. They're down 800 gold, but they're up a dragon. And, you know, they've got a pretty good scaling angle here with the Jinx, with the Lulu buff, all of that. And in fact, this game does go super long. Awkward. So I believe this is another moment, if I'm recalling correctly, where, again, that Spica and Shenyi are on the same page. Shenyi is like, I am here. I am in your back pocket. Where you go, I will go. Where you live, I will live. And Huni comes to back them up. Now, could Kaiduo have come sooner? I can't see the mid lane wave exactly. But I think he could have come a little sooner, maybe. Blaze Olive is there first because he knows to drop that wave once this starts happening. And Tactical's not coming, by the way. Now, Spica goes in to avoid the Victor ult, or because he thinks it's a good angle. Tactical's like, I'm taking plates. I'm taking plates, boys. He could have moved here. Tactical could have moved. He's got his... Spica has his ult. No, so he went in before the ult. Unless he really saw... Can you see the Victor animation? No, he went in before the ult came out. But he knew... He knew Oli was there, right? Yeah, minions saw that. Spica needed to get out there, not go in. He flashed it. No, he didn't. He flashed out of the pit. Never mind. His Q is down also, so he's not even going to knock up the Victor. Did he think Huni was going to be able to have more powerful shields? Did Huni... Yeah, Huni shielded there. Huni shields him right here. No, Spica just has no business going in there whatsoever. Well, like, I'm going to be honest. I hoped coming to this VOD review, and based on a few things that I remembered, I hoped that it was going to skew positive, and that, you know, anything about Spica slumping or whatever was just going to be, no, he's fine. He's just, you know, playing. The good things he's doing are quiet, and and the bad things are circumstantial or whatever. But he has made some pretty obvious mistakes. He has honestly seemed in last game and this game kind of tilted at times, which is really hard to say from the outside, and no comms or anything, but that's just like the vibe that some of his decisions kind of give off. I think in the first game and somewhat in the second game, it was more accurate to say like he's doing good quiet things. He started off his pathing this game and the reaction there was good. So like I think his pathing is all clear and fine to me. But in the mid game and in certain decisions like the top dive with the Lee Sin Renekton and stuff like that, he's just not making clear good decisions. And the team are very much not communicating well. And that's all like multiplying a little bit. And, you know, we've still got the rest of this game to watch, but the thing you really need to not get worried or like concerned for, like, hey, it's 2 weeks into this team and we had to expect they're going to struggle early and work for this. And that's what we're seeing, right? This is not panic mode. This is not me saying the sky is falling. But it is saying, like, it's not the entire team is struggling, but Spica is doing his best to get them on his back. Like, he's not doing that. He's struggling along with the rest of them. I've kind of lost my thread of thought, but that's, like, what I'm seeing from it, and he's going to need to work on it just as much as the rest of them are. And here's a decent play. Shenyi flashes in. They get lost. Spica then switches over to the other carry, and there's a nice fight. And right after I go on my little like early summary rant, Spica gives me something. He and Shenyi are like doing stuff together for sure. Yeah, now they're going to go for playing the bot. They've got a turn that they can use to do it, and they do it. Another impression that I had from this game is that if you're counting the scoreboard, Blaze Olive looks like he's having a really bad game. But I actually thought that he did some really good things with, if I'm remembering correctly, he did some really good things for team fights with his angles and accessing certain targets and controlling certain chokes. And that his deaths were things like that, where it's like, look, I'm just trying to farm at a tower here. My team is down in tempo, but, you know, we're just going to catch these waves and then we'll have a turn. And suddenly he gets jumped. And you can't really, like, count that death too hard against him. Things like the fight at Blue Buff there where Spica died. A Blaze Olive dropping the fight for Prio on that wave and being there first and stuff like that. Is Stridebreaker good on Xin Zhao? I mean, I don't know. I don't play it. And even if I did, I wouldn't play it at a high enough level to comment on that. But conceptually, it's going to get you onto a target faster, which can help if it's you and Rel making plays together. And if you're feeling like the way that we're going to win this game is we catch a target out and blow them up, like they did in that fight into River before, I can see it fitting into that mentality. As a standard choice, I would think obviously Gore Drinker makes more sense. But I can see the situational use. Now, in this game, if he feels like he's going to have Lulu buffing him and he doesn't need the big like lifesteal proc and general lifesteal at a Gore Drinker, maybe that's his thought process. I don't know. I'm not sure that Stridebreaker just has a super strong case for me, but I don't know. I don't really have a big issue with it if that's the way they intend to play. And with honestly with Vex too, going for picks, even a Jinx ult to follow it up, going for picks is kind of not a bad game plan. So I can see it. In my opinion, who's the best performing jungler in LCS right now? I think you got to say Blabber. I mean, obviously he's getting his team, setting him up for success, but I don't think anybody has ever doubted that Blabber knows how to use the resources given to him. River does some pretty good things, but I also think that he just does a lot of things that look great when they work, but could look pretty bad when they fail. You can call it a coin flip kind of an approach if you want, and they have worked out a little more often than maybe I think they should, given what the enemy teams are doing and stuff. So I think he's getting... I'm not criticizing him exactly, but I think he's getting a little more hype than his performance. Like, he's getting S tier hype when I think he's playing A or A+ level. That's my thought. Now, big Ole ult into that choke. And a Blaze Olive, huge chunk. Spica and Shenyi go in to counter it, but... See right there, a Blaze Olive and Ole leading it, huge. Oh dear. Now is that just at a greedy recall spot and then walking up on the wave without being able to see enemy team anywhere. He's just making an assumption and gambling and getting caught for it. It's kind of unlucky. Yeah, see, look at this. Boom. Look at that damage. But Shenyi did a good job getting in there, and it was so close to be able to finish off a Blaze Olive there, which might kind of, might have kind of made the fight more even. Where was Kaido during that? He was catching away bot, doesn't have TP. Would have been seen coming from a mile away. Which is, I mean, that's not an issue with what he was doing. And here's one where Blaze Olive does get caught out. Now, is this forgivable? His team doesn't really have a second pressure point on the map. They're about to be hitting mid-inner, but yeah, he has vision, but there's a pretty big hole in it. Him getting caught here, I think, allows his team to very confidently take mid-outer, so it's a trade. He probably could have backed off there and gained a little more information before walking forward more. I don't think he played it the best he could have. TSM got the pushback here. Oh yeah, this one. This is another one of the moments. Just to follow, because I made the comment about a Blaze Olive already, right? This was another one of the moments where I'm like, actually, I think Blaze Olive had a really good game. He respawns. He TPs to River. He hugs the wall here and kind of around the corner. And drops, a bunch of zone control and damage so they can't just freely jump him. Now, he is a little vulnerable to getting turned on here, but look what he can do before they get there. And then he just flashes back out of Kaido's CC. Bam. Sets up a 3-0. 4-0. Now, what could TSM have done better here? Exit sooner, I guess? Shenyi is standing there hoping to dive, though. The only reason for Shenyi to be standing right here is because he's hoping to jump the wall and dive in her. I think. And he was on the ward. Wait. So he's on the... He doesn't know there's a ward there, but he's standing there and maybe he suspects something about the way they're acting. But then he procs the scanner, hesitates before clearing the ward, and now he has to exit in a different way than the rest of the team. If he had seen he was on a ward and either instantly cleared it, maybe he can move with the rest of the team, or just said, oh, I was on a ward, I don't have time to clear it, join with the rest of the team. Now he can join this CC chain, and they probably kill a Blaze Olive, maybe still lose the fight. But yeah, TSM were not, again, they were not quite on the same page there. Is there anyone in TSM you think is playing pretty well considering the circumstances? I think there have been moments from, most or all of the players. I don't think there have been enough consistent moments from any of them to really say, like, here's the one shining light or something like that. I think there have been shining moments. And moments from them where you're like, okay, once they clean up this and this, they're going to be, as a team, they're going to be totally fine. Here's another one where Blaze Olive gets jumped, and this one, he traded his good plays for a little bit of poor side lane awareness. Spica goes in, leads a pick on Pride Stalker. And now they're like, all right, here's our chance. If we can get a good turn off of this, maybe we got something. But meanwhile, the Icarus is taking a turret. I saw a smite go down for a second. I'm like, did Spica just smite that early for health or something? It was Huni. Wait, did Huni smite that for health? Or just for, speed? Right there. He didn't need the health, really. Does he even have... Wait. Do you only get the health if you have the jungle item, right? Doesn't he even have the jungle item? Or did he? I don't know. I don't know enough about this strategy or builds, or pay close enough attention to it, or really want to. So I'm just going to drop the point. I think he was just trying to burn it down faster. Spica wins the smite. And look at him go. But they get wrecked 3-1. And lost bot inhib turret. But they had to try something. They're so far behind. You always get the health, even with that? Okay. Thank you for clarifying. It's something that you don't necessarily really think about, because when you're a jungler, you don't really ever take smite without buying the item at the start, right? I think I don't want to go back and review that whole Baron setup again, because it's kind of neither here nor there, but I think they didn't have good information on who was approaching and how many and from what directions, because they didn't have good vision. Here goes Kaiduo. Pride Stalker pulls him way back with that little dash there. You see? Bam. Gotcha. Get outplayed. No, Shenyi is if they didn't have to get pulled quite so far back in. Of course, Huni tactical is still kind of far away. But if he had caught him right here, instead of being pulled all the way back here, now you can get a CC chain in from Shenyi and Spica. But tacticals, he can only really add ult on that, but maybe they can kill him through the CC chain. But of course, Pride Stalker pulled him back, and even if he didn't have the Zed, shadow thing, he could have flashed and done a similar effect. But it doesn't really matter again. Oh yeah, it's just I'm remembering how this game ends. Let's just watch it for fun. Maybe this game didn't go as long as I remember, but it felt like it was long. Maybe it does. Yeah, let's cheat. Yeah, it goes really long. Never mind. It does go really long. But TSM are just like, they're not in this game, and they shouldn't be. Getting those side lane picks is obviously helping. Spica flashes on Ole, trades flashes. But of course now Licorice, in this strategy, you don't really have anyone to match him. Kaido can kind of try, but he's not having much success. Just waiting around for something to happen. It's a good thing Golden Guardians took those two inhibs like post 20 minutes. Otherwise, this never would have worked. He says completely unironically. But not really. Ooh, ooh, ooh. Tactical spots him with a Jinx W. Spica just goes in. And they didn't even need the Jinx ult to hit to get that pick. Ooh, with the Graves ult. But that buys him some time. I think that means because Kaido can TP with full health. Oh yeah, but GG don't give this dragon up, do they? Ooh, tactical. Look at him go. Look at him. He's got Lulu on him. A little bit of help from picks. And they get Ocean Soul. I don't want to over dissect macro here, so. But I thought. Are they going to go for it this time? Are they going to actually try? Okay, no. No, they make Licorice flash. Now they have inside angle on mid lane. Earlier, they had that Herald crash to inner, so it's low health, which means that they got to finish it and get... Yeah, and see, here's just a small thing. Small little ranty thing. This mid push right here, it was second Rift Herald. I believe they used it to take the outer turret and then charge inner, and that was the one where Shenyi was standing on this wall here and then exited a little late in the wrong way, and they failed to pick off a Blaze Olive, and blah, 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 they lost that fight. But with the Rift Herald getting this charge here and them getting it chunked down so low, turret health is a resource. It translates into a time resource. That Rift Herald is worth more than the turret gold that it killed, because right here, later on, Rift Herald did not earn this tower's gold. But look how quickly they finished it, so how soon they could start hitting this one while Golden Guardians are resetting on the map. And they get it. And do they leave in time? I think they do. And now since the turret's dead, they can even think about a little bit more. They don't get that inhib turret without second Herald charging the inner. Because if that turret was still standing by the time Golden Guardians got out from their resets, TSM have to leave. The only reason they can stay around is because there's no turret anymore. Turret health is a resource that is one little reason that Rift Heralds are worth more than a mere mathematical reduction to turret play gold. Boom. Tactical chunks that. Hydro goes in on top of it. Tactical flashes in with the confidence of the Lulu. See, this is tactical. This is good tactical right here. And it's him retaining the things that have made him good. Even though his team is struggling, even though he's not having things set up as well for him as he's used to, even though he's making mistakes here and there, he's retaining that aggression. And that has just put TSM back in the game. Not all him, right? But, ooh. And then meanwhile, you got a Zed flanking you. You got a Leona. Ooh, and the Zed just kind of gets ya. And then he felt himself a little too much there. It's like a 2 or 3 days late caster curse kind of situation. Sorry, tactical. But on the balance, and even with a more veteran player, seeing tactical flash in and make this big, or not even flash in, just like he did flash in. Yeah, that was just spectator bug, replay bug. Seeing him go in and make that play, the mistake afterwards to get caught in the Nexus push doesn't negate that he made a good play there. And I'd rather see a player who makes good plays and mistakes than a player who doesn't do either. And I hope TSM fans remember that tactical that flashed in and put them back in the game just as much, or hopefully more, than they remember the tactical who got caught by Leon and Zed. It is far easier. Gale Force is part of it, yeah, but he also flashed. It's far easier to fix the mistake than it is to learn to flash forward there, to get that confidence. And like to sense the opportunity. You have to learn how to like intuitively sense openings to go, and intuitively sense moments of danger where you have to be like, no, I can't go here, I gotta back off. But I think it's easier to learn the sense of danger. Ole ults tactical. Buddy kites back. Problem is Shen Yu died to save him. It's okay though. I mean, Elder's up. But Licorice still has ult, nobody else does. Do you give this, or I think you try for it. Okay, now you give it. You tried. You thought we'd look if we had something there. All right, now you got to just survive this. Oh, Baron just expired. Never mind. Take a couple of inhibs. You got to give up these inhibs, because if you don't, you're giving up the actual game. You cannot fight into Elder. And Golden Guardians have so much AoE to proc the Elder Execute. If they get a bunch of people low and then suddenly boom, 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 they're all dead. Alright, let's jump it forward a bit here. I think we're getting near to the end. Alright, another Jinx Ult for kind of poke, which is working pretty well from Tactical, honestly. How do they catch a Blaze Olive here? He has Flash. Oh, yeah. See, Tactical lands the W into the Gale Force. I think it's a Gale Force there. Jinx W into Gale Force, into traps out of the Zonias. Huge play from Tactical. But Licorice is trying to backdoor. Kaido is frantically trying to hold this, but he just can't clear the super minions fast enough before Licorice takes the turrets. Meanwhile, fight in the mid lane. Spica ult to get Tactical out. Oh, excuse me. Shenyi gets home and they kill Licorice. Thus, TSM still in the game. Ooh, trade of GAs. But Spica can go back in after because he's tankier. Now, where did a Blaze Olive die in this? Oh, what? Was he dead a long time ago? Oh yeah, he was dead in the, sorry, in the pick in the base. The death timers are so long. I'm like, how can he? He's not still dead from that. Spica is so confident to go in here. Like, okay, he had GA. That's why he was so confident. The Lulua helped, but like it was really the GA. Kaido TPs now that they killed Licorice. Oh no, Blaze Olive. Okay, I've forgotten the end of this game from him. The Blaze Olive still did some good things this game, but I take it back, he did not have overall a good game. Oh no! Spica's chasing out Ole. He gets jumped by a Zed. And there's nothing he can do. So what was he expecting? His team is all in the mid lane. He's just like, yeah, I'm going to rotate to join them, I guess. Does he have any reason to suspect that Pride Stalker is there? They've seen him leave, so they've seen, and he's standing in that bush. Okay, they didn't see him in any of this, I think. 5, 6, 7, 8. He spends just about 10 seconds. I mean, with the little pops in and out, he spends more than 10 seconds hanging out in that bush. While Ole had left. Yeah, I mean, with health that low, I guess you kind of have to be paranoid as Spica about the Zed, but I don't know that you really expect him to be lingering when if you're Spica here, I mean, there is some vision. If you're TSM, do you know whether the rest of the team leaving has been... Yeah, you know. You've been seen on this control word. So you know that they know you're alone. But Spica doesn't feel vulnerable here. He's at like 60% health. And it is a little bit iffy, maybe, for Pride Stalker to be hanging out there. Like, I don't know. I think it's a mistake from Spica, but it's a little bit like, I can see how easy of a mistake that would be, that you feel like, hey, we just won that fight. We're pretty strong on the map right now. I'm not in bad condition. I'm going to go rotate and join my mid lane push. Wait a second. Zed jungle is a thing. I wouldn't take a lot of points off Spica for that. But yeah, if he hadn't died, they probably complete that mid push and then go Baron. And then that Baron, that Baron dying, so let's say right around now, that gives them enough time then to stack on the bot, super wave, one or two people, push on the mid wave, control Elder. So it was a big catch from Pride Stalker to have that presence of mind, like, hey, he's chasing Ole. If somebody chases here, and he didn't even use his ult, right, he could have popped somebody. And popping anybody there would have been a big enough win for Pride Stalker, probably. So this is, if anything, that death from Spica there was an example of having a little pocket pool of picks, like Zeds and things like that, and what it can do to help you win games when the enemy team has not been specifically game planning against your unique picks. Shinny gets a really good engage here. Spica's walking in. He goes in and helps to execute Lost. They get Ole as well. Tactical's popping off. Yes, he should in this comp. And TSM get a 4-1. Pride Stalker manages to proc a good enough ult pop on Tactical. But a 4-1 and an Elder. And now TSM, like, you can never remove Ocean Soul from the enemy team. But now TSM might be in a favored position, at least while the Elder's active. Now, can you end the game with it, is the question. This is a very entertaining game. Not particularly a well-played game, aside from certain moments and certain fights and certain big plays, but on the whole, as teams, not especially well played. But like, what a fun game to watch this was. And here's Licorice trying to backdoor. Who gets home? Ooh. And if you look in the top screen, I believe Ole flashes in trying to cancel. I think it's Kaido's recall. Yeah, right here. Right here. Oh, he ults him and does stall it. But here comes again. Oh, he's TPing. And he flashes. Would Leona E cancel TP? I think it does, right? A root cancels TP, doesn't it? It's just like Leona E feels like, emotionally, it feels like such a weak spell. It feels like a way for Leona to go in more to me, maybe just when I use it, than it does at like a lockdown. So it's like, oh, it's just like you're tickling him with a feather. How is that going to cancel TP? But of course, it does have the root component on it. And now the duel in the base. Licorice, Kaido. Oh, Licorice wins it. And this is where, like, Licorice wins this against an Elder buff. Like, what? This is, look how close he gets to that little white line right there. Turret hit. Oh! Oh, did Elder expire right there? Wait a second. Elder buff, where's the timer? No, 53 seconds at 40, so it's expiring 43:30. No, it hadn't been that long. It didn't expire. Right? Does the white line disappear there because they're too far away? I have to. It doesn't feel like enough time has gone by. What about this one? No, it gets procced on him. And of course, it's not showing on them because they're not low enough. I'm not sure if he would have dropped below that line regardless. No, he wouldn't have. Okay, so it wasn't quite as big a deal. But still, Licorice solo kills him against an Elder buff. And that they almost... The burn timed out, which is why there's no line. Okay. Yeah. So he would have had to get another instance of damage on him to... Gotcha. Huni gets back, but of course he's a little smite. Yeah, okay, there it is again. So he just wasn't quite close enough, but maybe one more proc of damage from Kaido would have got him there. Man. Anyways, what a game. What a beautiful mess of a game. So let's review. 2 Poppy games, Spica pathed very defensively, but I thought it was the right thing to do, but it did lead him to having kind of quiet games. And then kind of some weak fights, some poor approaches, some lack of coordination cost them. Game 3, really difficult draft, I think, to win with. I think draft was kind of a common challenge, and then this Game 4 draft was so strange, and you're not likely to have much practice with it. I'm on the side of this early in the season, especially with a team like that is pretty inexperienced and especially new working together. Excuse me. I don't think you should be playing these kinds of really out there strategies because I don't think it helps you with improving the fundamentals that you're going to need to rely on the entire year. It'll help you learn something in that specific meta and learn something different and new, but at this stage you don't need to be worrying about learning different and new. You need to be learning to get on the same page with the basic, comm structures, the basic shot calling duties, getting a read on this teammate in this situation is going to do this thing. Like, they're going to go in and they're going to want to fight this, so I better be ready to move and not be working on the turret. Stuff like that is a really common theme, and it seems clear that Spica and Shenyi are the ones who want to go in and do something, and go for a fight. But they aren't always getting the moves or the backup from their teammates to do it well. Spica has made mistakes that looked like he is frustrated or tilted maybe, or that he's just not making good calls, not reading situations correctly. I think his games in week 2 looked a little dirtier that way than his week 1 games. Maybe that's just because Poppy, but he had that one E against the Gwen as a Poppy that was like, I don't really know what you're thinking there. Things like that. It did show up there too. On the whole, if I'm really forced to boil it down and answer kind of that question of is Spica kind of slumping to start the year or not, I have to kind of begrudgingly say, yeah, I think he is. Obviously, a lot of that is going to come from team circumstance and the level of the team, which is not great right now. But it's not, I'm one of the first to be ready to shut out a player who, hey, their team is struggling, but this player individually I think is doing really well. I do it like in Academy, especially all the time. And some of my like kind of pet players have been those kinds of players, playing well on poor teams or whatever. But I don't think that's the case with Spica right now. I don't think he's playing horribly. I don't think he's, looking like a shadow of his MVP self or anything, but I don't think he's playing up to his own level. And we need him to kind of clean up some of those issues, some of those mistakes, and get back to what we know he can be. And I haven't seen anything that makes me worried or concerned for his ability to get back on track. But I have seen some things that I'm going to continue to watch for and see hopefully how soon he can overcome them. His pathing is still good, I think. And he made some really good team fighting plays in the Xin Zhao and stuff like that. So The sky's not falling, but there have been some drops of rain. Thanks for watching and supporting my content. I'd really appreciate it if you subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications, and check out the channel memberships if you want to get access to custom emojis, special roles in the Oracle's Elixir Discord, and other perks.